In this video, we're going to be tackling the bold question: is the housing market crashing? I'm Steven Ellis with Ellis Properties, and alongside my wife Caitlin, we run a small real estate team here in Northern Virginia. But let's go ahead and get back to the big question: is the housing market doomed? A lot of people are actually very concerned right now, and rightfully so, with the actual news cycle and social media that you're seeing. You're seeing a lot of different stories about banks closing, interest rates rising, and maybe even a pending recession. But then you also see on the flip side, some realtors are saying that the spring 2022 market is back. My listing that I just had over 15 different showings, 3 offers. We sold above asking price. So really, what's going on? And we're going to dive into a little bit of data and some articles to help figure this out. No matter where you're getting your information from, you always want to make sure that it actually pertains to you and your local market rather than regional or national news. The Wall Street Journal just released this little graphic, and I think it's a great one showing the differences of what's going on in the East Coast versus the West Coast. This graphic is going to be breaking down the home prices from January 2022 to what we're seeing in January 2023, so a year's difference. You'll notice that out west, places like Seattle and San Francisco, those home prices have dropped. And a large part of that was because home prices out there actually just soared during 2021 and 2022 compared to a lot of the other places. So they're starting to level off a little bit. On the East Coast, you're going to see Miami and Orlando sitting very pretty at 12 and 9.3% increase. And in Virginia and the DMV area, Washington, D.C., you're going to see that rise between 0 to 3%, which is actually pretty typical for what you're going to see equity-wise throughout the entire year. So again, make sure that whatever you're listening to is going to be pertaining to your local market, because some of these other numbers that you're going to hear might not actually be what's going on in your market or your house. So next, I want to do a deep dive into an article that I've dug up from the National Realtor Association, the NAR, and we're going to highlight a couple key points in here that I think are going to be some great takeaways. So in February of 2022, we actually saw a decline in home sales, and that's not home sale price, that's the actual number of houses being sold. So we actually reversed this trend, which is a great sign. Next, NAR's chief economist says, conscious of changing mortgage rates, home buyers are taking advantage of any rate declines. Moreover, we're seeing stronger sales gains in areas where home prices are decreasing and the local economies are adding jobs. So 2 big takeaways from this little bit is that if you are home shopping, make sure that you have a close relationship with your lender. Mortgage rates are indeed changing every single day depending on what's coming out in the news cycle. So what you can afford on a Monday might be drastically different, higher or lower on that coming Friday when you're actually going out and shopping for homes, going to open houses and stuff like that. The second bit is going to get a little local here in that the Washington, D.C. area and the local government here, as well as the national government, is always going to be supplying jobs. They talked about how the job markets drastically affect the housing market, and that's great for us because as long as the national government's here and our job market here is stable, we're going to see stable home prices versus the rest of the country. All right, so this is a big one. Inventory levels are still at historic lows. Consequently, multiple offers are returning on a good number of properties. Throughout the entire country, inventory levels are very, very low, and Northern Virginia is actually even lower. So any home that's actually priced well and also shows very well is typically going to be in that multiple offer situation and might be sold in a week. But I don't think this is the same spring 2022 market. A lot of the numbers are drastically different than what we saw a year ago. Mortgage rates are definitely higher. The number of homes being sold is actually lower than last year, and the inventory levels are still low. So all those combined make it a very different market from what we saw last year. All right, so the very last thing to point out in this article, distressed sales, aka foreclosures and short sales, represented 2% of sales in February, same as the previous month and a year ago. When you think housing crashes, you typically look at the foreclosure numbers, and those numbers right now are very similar to what they were in the previous year as well as last month, and these aren't the type of numbers that we're seeing that was in the housing crash of 2008-2009. If you're thinking about purchasing a home in 2023, we aren't the type of agents that are going to hop on this channel and tell you that now is always the perfect time to buy. If you need to get a home for a job relocation or maybe a growing family, then sure, absolutely. But if you can put off maybe purchasing that home or maybe extending your lease for a little bit longer, mortgage rates are actually supposed to trend downwards for the rest of 2023 and then into 2024. The Mortgage Bankers Association actually put out some great data last week, and I wanted to dive into a little bit to show you how they're expecting some of the forecasts going for the rest of the year. So interest rates right now are at 6.5%, give or take a little bit. And remember, they're changing every single day. But by Q4, they're projecting to drop to 5.3, which would be amazing for buyers. Housing measures are a great indicator of how our market's actually performing and comparing those future forecasts compared to what happened in 2022. So the housing starts right now is basically how many new builds they're doing, and those are trending up. We definitely need new construction and new homes for everybody, not only locally, but nationally. And then the actual number of housing sales, that's also trending up. We'd love to see that number finally get above what we saw in 2022, and hopefully we get there soon. So my quick 30-second summary here for Northern Virginia, that as long as we see these inventories at low levels, our housing market is going to be pretty stable. It's going to continue to be tough for buyers, and it's going to be competitive, but working with the right real estate agent puts you in a great position to win some of these multiple offer type situations. And if you're looking to sell your home in the near future, be sure that you're going to be priced well and it's going to look well, and that'll ensure you that it's going to go pretty quick. But for now, in Northern Virginia, I do not see a real estate crash, and I think we're going to see a healthy market going into 2023 and then 2024. I'm Steven Ellis with Ellis Properties. Be sure to subscribe to our channel for all the great places to live and things to do here in Northern Virginia.